Hi and hello everyone, this is Srishti Tarun Jain, and as promised, I'm back with part 2 of amazing and fun memorizing tricks and techniques. Today I'm going to talk to you about 6 tricks that are going to help you study better and perform really well at your exams. Let's go. Number 1 is the chart technique. I'm going to show you a chart which I used for my studies. So these are the accounting standard numbers and their respective names. So what happened was I had to remember these accounting standards and their respective names, but as well I had a lot of other things to study, so I didn't want to invest a single minute on this. So what I did was I prepared a chart like this and I pasted it in one of the places where I commonly visit. Like I pasted it in my bedroom. You can paste it probably in your study room or your study table or wherever you want. And whenever you pass that way, I'm sure your eyes would go to the chart and your brain will start grasping it without you even knowing that you're learning it. So this was the trick which I used for memorizing the accounting standards, and I was able to memorize it in no time. Now this is for pointers where you have some titles and you have names. So you can use this for maybe your sections in law or direct taxes or any other subject, whichever you're doing. I use the same chart technique to remember definitions. Now again, taking a reference from accounting standards, AS9 talks about revenue recognition. So as you all know, it is very important for us to remember definitions in any course you're doing. Definitions are definitely one thing which impress the examiner a lot, but at the same time there are few definitions which are very big, long, and have complicated words. So what do? Say for example, if I were to tell you to remember the definition of revenue, just the way I'm reading: revenue is the gross inflow of cash, receivables, and other consideration arising in the course of ordinary activities of an enterprise from sale of goods, rendering of services, and use of resources, yielding interest, royalties, and dividends. You would be like, what? It's like huge, right? So what I did was I created a 3-layer diagram to remember this definition, and trust me, it became really easy. I'm going to show you what I created. So this is the flow chart I used for the definition of revenue as per AS9. So as you can see, it's revenue is gross inflow of, and I have put a chart saying giving 3 arrow marks, which is cash, receivables, and other consideration. And then I've put a curly bracket, and again I've given the 3 pointers under them, and again 3 pointers under them. So this is how I remembered huge definitions for my study. You can use this for any definition you wish to use. So this was number 1, chart technique. The number 2 technique is a notepad technique. It's also called a pocket diary technique. Now this technique was taught to me by my father when I was small, and by one of my professors while I was pursuing CA. So what is the notepad technique? Now if you would have seen my first part of this video, which spoke about acronyms, acrostics, and mental pictures, you would also know that when you use those techniques for all the subjects or for a couple of subjects, there would be a lot of things that you will have to remember, or at least you would like to see then and there. So even for those things, it is good that you create a table of contents saying the acronym and what it stands for a quick reference one day before your examination. So what do you do if you don't want to spend too much time on this? You can use the pocket diary technique. The reason it's called a pocket diary is because it's exactly the normal or regular pocket size. And for people who don't really want to use it as a pocket diary, you can use it like a cell phone diary, because it's almost the size of your cell phone. So what do you do is, like, I have used this for formulas. Like I have written a dividend payout ratio formula, etc. in this, because I need to remember these formulas for strategic financial management. And you can use this for say your math formulas or anything, whichever you wish to. So what you have to do is you just have to write what you need to remember and just close the pocket diary and keep it with you. Say for example, you are out with your friends and you're waiting, for your friends to turn up at a particular place. So instead of just waiting and wasting time, you can take out your pocket diary and start reading what you've written in the pocket diary. Trust me, this is an amazing memory technique. This might sound a little geekish, but trust me, it is not. It's completely cool to use your time and not to waste time, especially when you're in the field of education. So this is a pocket diary technique. Say for example, you've gone to a cafe, you're waiting for the waiter to get your coffee, so might as well pick up the book, and for the next 5 minutes you can read what you need to read. I'm gonna leave the link to my first video in the description box below, to so people who have not seen the part 1, you can see the part 1 where I've explained what are acronyms, acrostics and mental pictures, and how you can, and now you know how you can use the pocket diary to really remember them. The third technique is notes technique. A lot of us have a habit that we mark notes in the textbook. While it is a very good habit, I also want to say that there is no comparison to your handmade notes. Make sure that whenever you're studying something, keep a notebook besides and make notes there. Notes should not be exact replica of what is in the textbook. Notes should be a crisp summary of what is in the textbook, but it should include key words, key highlighted words. That's very important. But while you make notes, a lot of us make a mistake of using one single color for the entire notes, saying, who will waste time? Trust me, you should use more than 2 colors to make your notes so that the mind grasps it faster. It is proved by scientists across the world that the brain captures colors very fast. No wonder, the books of kids are really colorful. That's because the brain grasps it the fastest. Now, if you would have noticed, I have used 2 colors in my chart technique, and generally in my notes I use 3 colors. How I use it is, I use red for the heading, blue for the text, and black for the diagram, or you can use pencil for the diagram. You can use 4 colors as well, but too many colors are gonna just spoil the broth. But again, it depends from person to person how you would like to learn. That's the notes technique. The fourth, fifth, and the 6th technique are going to help you plan and study better. And if you plan in that way, that's going to help you retain the memory you have. Because when you use all these techniques, it's not only important to learn at the first go, it is extremely important to retain until examinations and beyond. So the 4th technique I'm going to talk about is 2 subjects in a day. If you're doing a professional course, make sure you don't study more than 2 subjects in a day, because too many subjects in a day might not really be comfortable. Of course, there are people who prefer to study 4 or 5 subjects in a day, but I'm talking about the majority lot who cannot do it, or who are not comfortable doing it, and I'm one of them. I prefer studying 2 subjects in a day because that gives me the exact grip what I need to have over the subjects. Of course, if you are revising, you can do more than 2 or 3 subjects, but for the first reading, 2 subjects a day is perfect. You can choose a theory and a practical subject, or whatever feels comfortable. Of course, if you are studying in school or college, you have a lot of subjects. So depending on which examination you are going to appear, you can choose the number of subjects. Say for example, if you are going in for your midterm examinations don't have too large portions to study, so you can actually do like 4 or 5 subjects in a day because you have very little portion. But when you come to professional courses, definitely the portion is really heavy, and 2 subjects in a day is good enough for your brain to grasp. So you do 2 subjects in a day and make a daily plan. So make a daily plan for 3 days. Make sure if you have any spillovers from day 1, you finish it before the start of day 2 plan, because spillovers really spoil the entire plan. So make sure you cover it up as soon as possible. Now, in relation to this is my tip number 5, which is 5:1:1 technique. Now, what is 5:1:1 technique? This means that you study 5 days in a week completely, thoroughly. and the sixth day, which is the sixth day, you do complete revision, and the seventh day you can take an off, just relax. If you want to really use that time, you can use half of the seventh day, and at least for half a day keep your mind really free, because your mind needs to relax before it can absorb more like a sponge. So in those 5 days, make sure you don't miss out on your revisions. Your revisions have to be really quick. Say for example, if the first reading of a particular paragraph is taking you 5 minutes on day one, the revision should not take more than 2 minutes, and the third revision should not take more than a minute. So that's how effectively you need to learn. Now, as I spoke in my Mythbuster video, again, I'm going to leave the description, the link of this video in the description box below. As I mentioned in the Mythbuster video, I do not really prefer studying for 15-16 hours in a day. I do not recommend that to any of you, because literally it is torturous to study that way. Of course, a few people can do it, but I'm again talking about the other people who may not be comfortable doing that. So I always prefer quality over quantity. So what you do is you study the entire day for the first 5 days. How you go about is you start studying, and at the end of the day you revise, you summarize what you learned. The next day morning before you start, you summarize what you learned the previous day, and then you start off, and cumulatively you keep doing this. So your revision on the sixth day is going to be a very rigorous revision, and trust me, once you do that effectively, you can directly then study once your examinations nearby, and trust me, you are not going to forget a single thing. You are not forgetting anything at all. So this is definitely a successful point to remember. The last tip is you need to analyze the trend of examinations. You might be in school, you might be in college, you might be doing a professional course or whatever, but it's very important that you analyze the previous trend of the examination, because most of them definitely follow a particular trend. So you need to take previous maybe 3 attempts question papers and try to analyze the trend, try to answer them, test yourself, go for mock tests if institutes are conducting them. So what you do is you take those question papers, you answer them in the specified time. Say for example, if it's a 3-hour paper, normally you also take 3 hours and you try to answer the entire question paper in that 3 hours, and then compare your answers to the suggested answers that are published by the institute or are given by schools and colleges. So that way you will know where you stand, you will improve on your writing speed, you will improve on your thinking speed, and you will know what is the trend generally followed and which are the sections that you need to focus more. But I don't suggest you to just go on the trend. It is very indicative, but definitely it is very, very, very helpful. And the fifth one, why you should be doing it, is you might think you're answering a particular question absolutely right, but when you compare your answers with the suggested answers, you will know that there are discrepancies between what we think we should be writing in that particular answer and between what the examiners expect you to write. So yeah, so these are my 6 tips to summarize. The first one was the chart technique, second is your pocket diary technique, third is your notes with colorful pens, fourth is not more than 2 subjects in a day. Again, that depends from person to person. The fifth technique is you have to follow a 5:1:1 plan, and last, the sixth technique is analyze the trend of the past 3 attempts. So hope this video was useful for you, and please do like, share and subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for part 3 of the memory boosting technique. Trust me, I promise you that's going to be the most interesting part of the entire memory boosting tricks technique series. So till then, happy learning. Bye.